In the quiet and lush village of Arogbo, nestled between rolling hills and dense forest, there lived a girl named Morayo. From a young age, Morayo had been the talk of the village. People said she was blessed by the gods with beauty that could stop anyone in their tracks. Her skin was as smooth as the rippling waters of the village's river, her dark hair flowed like silk, and her eyes gleamed with the brightness of the morning sun. Everywhere Morayo went, heads turned. The women of the village admired her grace, and the men were drawn to her charm, but there was something special about her that went beyond her appearance. She carried herself with humility and kindness, always helping the elderly, playing with children, and assisting her parents on their farm without complaint. Despite all the attention, Morayo never let it change who she was. Yet, in the shadows, something darker lurked. The whispers about Morayo's beauty were not always filled with admiration. Jealousy grew among some of the villagers. Other young women in the village, whose hearts were filled with envy, began to despise her. They wondered why she, of all people, was so blessed, and why they couldn't share in the same admiration and love that Morayo received so effortlessly. Among those harboring jealousy was Sod, the daughter of the village's richest man. Sod was beautiful in her own right, but she was prideful, believing that her family's wealth and status should make her the village's darling. The fact that Morayo, a humble farmer's daughter, could outshine her in beauty and respect was something she couldn't accept. And so, the seeds of bitterness grew within her heart. Part 1: Morayo's good heart and growing tensions. Morayo's days were filled with joy despite the growing tension in the village. She would wake at dawn, help her mother fetch water from the river, and tend to the crops in the field with her father. She had a deep connection with nature, often humming songs while walking, her voice as gentle as the breeze that swept through the fields. Her laughter was infectious, and it made the villagers smile even during the harshest times of the farming season. The elderly, particularly Mama Sikiru, an old widow who lived at the edge of the village, adored Morayo. "Oh, Morayo, you're the light of this village," Mama Sikiru would say. "May the gods continue to bless you, my dear child." Morayo would smile humbly and offer to help Mama Sikiru with her chores, whether it was fetching firewood or repairing the old woman's thatched roof. This kindness endeared her even more to the villagers, but it also deepened the jealousy that burned in Sod and a few of the other young women. In time, Sod's jealousy grew into something more dangerous: resentment. With her friends by her side, she would often speak ill of Morayo, spreading false rumors and trying to tarnish her image. "She thinks she's better than us because everyone loves her," Sod would say, her voice dripping with disdain. But beauty fades, and when it does, no one will remember her. Still, no matter how many rumors spread, Morayo's character remained strong. The villagers saw through the lies and continued to respect her. She didn't let the negativity affect her, for she believed in living a life full of kindness and positivity, trusting that the gods would protect her from harm. One day, during the annual festival of harvest, when the entire village gathered to celebrate a bountiful season, a royal visitor arrived. Prince Adewale, son of the powerful King Folarin of a neighboring kingdom, rode into Arogbo with his retinue of warriors. He had heard tales of Morayo's unmatched beauty, and his curiosity had been piqued. The festival was in full swing when Prince Adewale made his entrance. Drummers beat their talking drums, filling the air with rhythm and energy, while the village women danced in a circle, their colorful wrappers twirling in time to the beat. Morayo, as was custom, stood in the middle of the celebration, leading the women in their graceful dances. Her movements were like poetry in motion, captivating everyone, including the prince. When the prince laid eyes on her, his heart raced. He had never seen such beauty before, not even among the most exquisite maidens of his father's kingdom. He was determined that she would be his bride. Without hesitation, Prince Adewale approached Morayo as the villagers watched with bated breath. "Beautiful Morayo," he said with confidence, "I am Prince Adewale, and I have come for you. Become my wife, and you will live a life of luxury and power beyond your wildest dreams. You will be the queen of my father's kingdom, and we will rule together." The villagers murmured among themselves. A proposal from a prince was no small matter, and many expected Morayo to accept without a second thought. But to everyone's surprise, Morayo did not hesitate in her response. Your Highness, she said respectfully, I am honored by your offer, but I cannot accept. My heart is not one that can be bought with riches and power. I believe in love that is pure and kind, and I cannot give my heart to someone I do not know. The villagers gasped, and Prince Adewole's face hardened. He was not used to being refused, especially not by a simple village girl. Do you know what you are turning down? He asked, his voice filled with incredulity. Do you realize the power I wield? Morayo remained calm. I do, Your Highness, but my decision remains. I will not marry for wealth or status. I will marry for love. Prince Adewole's pride was wounded, and with a dismissive wave of his hand, he turned and mounted his horse, leaving the village without another word. But before he left, he cast one last look at Morayo, and in that glance, there was a promise this was not the last she would see of him. Word of Morayo's rejection of the prince spread quickly through the village, and it wasn't long before it reached Soda's ears. Sod saw this as the perfect opportunity to ruin Morayo once and for all. With her heart still consumed by jealousy, Sod hatched a devious plan. One evening, Sod gathered her closest friends in her father's grand compound. They sat in a circle, their faces lit by the flickering light of an oil lamp. We've been patient for long enough, Sod began. It's time we put an end to Morayo's reign as the village darling. She embarrassed the prince, and that's all the excuse we need to act. What do you have in mind? One of the girls asked, her eyes narrowing with intrigue. Sod leaned forward, her voice a whisper. We will create a situation that no one can ignore. Something that will make the villagers turn on her. Her plan was simple yet cruel. She would spread a rumor that Morayo was a witch, using her beauty to bewitch the men of the village and turning down the prince because she planned to curse the royal family. It was a dangerous lie, but Sod knew that in their superstitious village, it wouldn't take much to plant the seed of fear. Soda's plan was put into motion the very next day. She and her friends began whispering to the villagers that they had seen Morayo in the dead of night, performing strange rituals in the forest. They claimed that she was using charms to maintain her beauty and that she had placed a curse on Prince Adewale for daring to propose to her. At first, the villagers dismissed the rumors, but as the days went by, Soda's lies began to take hold. Some claimed they had seen Morayo talking to the spirits in the forest. Others said they had noticed strange behavior from the men in the village, as if they were under a spell. Morayo, unaware of the storm brewing around her, continued her daily life with kindness and grace. But soon, she noticed the cold stares and the whispered conversations that stopped whenever she entered a room. Even her closest friends began to distance themselves, unsure of what to believe. It wasn't long before the village elders were called upon to address the growing concern. A meeting was held in the village square, and Morayo was summoned to defend herself. The village square was packed with people as Morayo stood before the elders, her heart pounding in her chest. She had no idea why she had been called, but she could feel the weight of the villagers' eyes on her. The once friendly faces were now filled with suspicion. Morayo, began Elder Kola, the eldest of the village council, there have been troubling rumors about you. Some say you have been using witchcraft to bewitch the men of this village and that you cursed Prince Adewale. What do you have to say for yourself? Morayo's eyes widened in shock. Elder, I swear on my life, I am no witch. These are lies. I have done nothing wrong. Sod stepped forward from the crowd, her voice dripping with false concern. We do not want to accuse you falsely, Morayo, but how can we explain the strange things that have been happening? You turned down the prince, and since then, things have not been the same. Morayo looked around, her heart sinking. She could see the doubt in the villagers' eyes, and she realized that the lies had already taken root. Desperately, she turned to Mama Sekeru, the old woman who had always been like a grandmother to her. Mama Sekeru, you know me. You know I would never do such a thing, she pleaded. Mama Sekeru's eyes were filled with sorrow, but even she hesitated. The fear of witchcraft was powerful, and it had infected the minds of the villagers. Morayo, my dear, Mama Sekeru said softly, I believe you, but the village is afraid. Fear can make people do things they never would. The elders, unable to come to a decision, gave Morayo one chance to prove her innocence. She would have to journey deep into the forest, to the sacred grove of the ancient spirit, Oromala, the god of wisdom. There, she would ask Oromala to speak on her behalf, and if the god deemed her innocent, the village would clear her name. But if Oromala remained silent, it would confirm her guilt. The journey was dangerous. No one had visited the sacred grove in years, and the forest was said to be full of spirits and creatures that guarded the path. But Morayo had no choice. If she didn't go, the village would turn on her completely. As the sun began to set, Morayo set off alone into the dense forest, her heart heavy with fear but also determination. She had never been so far from the village, and as the trees closed in around her, the sounds of the night began to echo in her ears, the hoot of an owl, the rustling of leaves, and the distant cry of an unseen creature. For hours, she walked, guided only by the faint light of the moon. The deeper she went, the more oppressive the darkness became, but she kept moving forward, her mind focused on reaching the sacred grove. At last, after what felt like an eternity, Morayo reached the sacred grove. The air was thick with the presence of the ancient spirit, and the trees seemed to whisper her name as she stepped into the clearing. In the center of the grove stood an ancient tree, its roots twisting and turning like the veins of the earth itself. Morayo knelt before the tree, her hands trembling. "Oromala," she called out, her voice shaking, "please hear me. I am innocent. I have done no wrong. I beg you to speak on my behalf." For a long moment, there was only silence. Morayo's heart pounded in her chest as she waited, her breath shallow. Then, suddenly, a soft breeze swept through the grove, and the leaves of the ancient tree rustled. The voice of Oromala, deep and wise, filled the air. "You speak the truth, Morayo," the spirit said. "You are innocent, and your heart is pure. The lies that have been spoken against you will be undone, for I see the truth that others cannot." Morayo's eyes filled with tears of relief. "Thank you, Oromala," she whispered. "Thank you." The voice of the spirit faded, and the grove fell silent once more. Morayo stood, her heart lighter than it had been in days. She knew that the spirit's judgment would clear her name and restore her place in the village. With renewed strength, Morayo made her way back to the village. When she arrived, she found the villagers gathered in the square, waiting anxiously for her return. The elders stepped forward, and Morayo spoke. "Oromala has spoken," she said, her voice clear and strong. "I am innocent. The spirit has judged me, and I have been found pure of heart." The villagers gasped, and murmurs rippled through the crowd. Elder Kola stepped forward, his eyes filled with regret. "Then it is settled," he said. "Morayo is innocent, and we owe her our deepest apologies." The villagers, filled with shame for doubting her, knelt before her, offering their apologies. Even Sod, though reluctant, lowered her head in defeat. In the days that followed, life in the village returned to normal. The rumors faded, and Morayo's reputation was restored. She was once again loved and respected by the people of Arogbo, but the experience had changed her. She had seen how easily lies and jealousy could tear a community apart, and she vowed to continue living her life with kindness and humility. As for Sod, her bitterness had been her downfall. Though she was forgiven by the village for her actions, her envy had marked her reputation forever. She had learned a painful lesson, one that she would carry with her for the rest of her life. No longer was she the most admired, and she realized too late that Morayo's beauty wasn't just physical, it was the kindness in her heart that truly made her shine. The day after her return from the sacred grove, Morayo visited Mama Sekiro at her small hut on the edge of the village. The old woman smiled warmly as she approached, waving her inside. "Oh, my dear child," Mama Sekiro said as Morayo sat on the mat beside her, "you've been through a great trial. I knew the gods would see the truth." Morayo nodded, her heart filled with gratitude. "I have learned so much, Mama. I saw how easily people can be misled by lies and jealousy, but I also learned the power of staying true to who I am. It was hard, but the gods have shown me that kindness and purity will always prevail." Mama Sekiro smiled, her wise eyes twinkling. "Yes, Morayo. Remember, the greatest beauty is not what we wear on our bodies, but what we carry in our hearts." Morayo embraced the old woman, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. She knew that her beauty was not the reason she was admired, it was the love and kindness she showed to everyone, regardless of their station in life. As the seasons passed, Morayo's life in Arugbo continued with the same humility and grace that had defined her from the start. The villagers grew to love her even more, not just for her beauty but for her strength of character. Her story of innocence and courage became a tale shared with children in the village, reminding them of the dangers of jealousy and false accusations. One day, as she was helping her father in the fields, a familiar figure approached on horseback. It was Prince Adewale, but this time, his face bore no trace of pride or anger. Instead, his eyes were filled with admiration and respect. "I have returned, Morayo," the prince said, dismounting and walking toward her. "I have heard of your journey and your strength. I now see what I could not before. You are not just beautiful on the outside but strong and noble within. I came to ask for your forgiveness for my earlier arrogance." Morayo smiled gently. "You have nothing to ask forgiveness for, Your Highness. I respect your honesty, and I am glad you see the truth now. But as I said before, my heart is not swayed by riches or power." The prince nodded, his eyes understanding. "I know. I do not come to offer you wealth, but my heart. If you will have it, I offer myself to you, not as a prince, but as a man who admires your strength and wishes to share in your life." Morayo looked at the prince, her heart softened by his humility. She saw in his eyes a sincerity that had not been there before, and though she had once refused him, something in her heart told her that this was different. "If your heart is true," she said, "then perhaps we can walk this path together." And so, Prince Adewale and Morayo grew close, not as a prince and a village girl, but as two hearts bound by mutual respect and admiration. They would go on to build a life together, one filled with love, compassion, and kindness. In the years that followed, Morayo's story became a beacon of hope in the village of Arugbo. Her journey from a beautiful girl admired by all, to a woman tested by jealousy and lies, and finally to a leader of kindness and strength, was told for generations. The village learned that beauty was not something to be envied or to hold against another. True beauty, they saw, was found in kindness, humility, and love, the qualities that made Morayo truly beautiful, both inside and out. And so, Morayo's name lived on in the songs and stories of the village, a reminder that no matter the trials we face, the heart that remains pure and true will always be victorious. Do you like stories like this? Do you have a story you will want me to create? Share with me. Thanks for watching. Remember to like, share and leave a comment.